Hi, this is Winter Tempest, and thank you for joining me on my first episode of my mod playthrough on Satisfactory. And Satisfactory is basically a building game where you make a lot of structures at a lot of factories to generate parts, and basically it's about automation and building a huge base, things like that. So I usually start in the rocky desert biome because it's got plenty of access to water and plenty of trees and stuff. And so when you start Satisfactory, it puts you in this drop pod and basically just stare at space for a minute or two. And down comes this little video, and it's animated kind of like the Fallout series. And it shows you basically what you have to do in the game.
Chart the planet and gather resources to provide desired results and improve your infrastructure. Make sure to report any
So basically you
unusual
construct
discoveries
machines
to
to harvest resources, you explore to find new resources and valuable resources, you collect all of them, and you build your factory with it.
That's it. Get to work and be effective. Warning, planetfall imminent. Please remain seated during full
So in that setup there, you've got a smelter that turns ore into ingots, and then you've got a constructor that turns into iron parts. And so after this little segment here, you drop down the planet. And over there to the right is the building and dismantling tool, and it basically allows you to pick up your structures and place them somewhere else or build new ones. Or if you don't need them anymore, you can just get rid of old ones. Alright, so this is the rocky desert biome, and that's where I'm going to build my base for this mod playthrough. And out there you can see a couple of trees and shrubs, and we're going to be going through a lot of those in order to get enough biomass to get our energy production going. In fact, in some games, if you play 1,000 hours, you can spend 50 or 60 hours of those just collecting biomass and chopping down trees.
Welcome to Planet Massage 2 ABB, your designated sector in the binary star system of active.
Alright, that present of the tree is because of the Fixmas event, and just got their celebration of Christmas. You put gifts together in order to make decorations and stuff.
Congratulations.
And so that tree over there is a barrel nut tree, and that's one of the first food items in the game, in case you get damaged by an alien creature or something. And so that's a drop pod, and
the resulting materials will be repurposed to construct
once it lets me, I'm going to dismantle it, and I can build my first part of the base, which is the hub. Alright, so that gives us one hub part, which allows us to build the hub. You need a pretty big area in order to build the hub. So we're just going to need to collect all this wood we can, so we can start getting biomass for energy. But yeah, collecting leaves and wood and stuff for biomass, it can be really time consuming, but they do have an upgrade called the chainsaw, which allows you to harvest at a much faster rate. Alright, so we've collected enough biomass, and now it's time to take a look and see what needs to be done next. Oh yeah, you have to put on the Xeno Zapper. That's a little taser that lets you zap local wildlife if it harasses you.
Note: according to Fix-It regulations, every pioneer should have access
And
to a
now it's
means of
telling us
defense
to
against
scan for iron,
extraterrestrial
so
threats.
just pop open the scanner,
Third objective: please familiarize
and it
yourself
detects
with the
iron.
resource scanner to find iron.
So there's some over there.
Note:
It's
the
always good
acquisition of
to build a
iron is
base
considered
somewhere near
essential in
iron so you
preparation
can
for all future
get things
objectives.
going relatively quick. But iron makes a ton of stuff in the game, and you need it for almost everything. It's one of the most important resources. Plus copper. Sometimes you have to rescan because the scanner fades out after a while. But there it is. It's a vein of iron. So when you're mining iron, it always starts with this big chunk on the top, and you have to dig it out in order to get to the part beneath. I'm going to go ahead and dig out this one too, because we're going to need it later.
Fourth objective: build the hub. Note: to complete this objective, the resources salvaged from
Right,
the drop
so
will be consumed.
next we're going to build a hub.
Caution:
It just needs a big open space. There we go. Got a little craft bench, a little terminal where I can send stuff up. And this will unlock the equipment workshop and the portable miner. Plus an inventory slot, which is always helpful.
Congratulations.
So first turn iron ore into iron ingots, and then turn those into iron plates and iron rods.
Fifth objective:
It can be a little time consuming when you're doing all this crafting, but there's some things that you can't craft in the machines until you unlock the machines, and there's some things you can only craft in machines, so you have to get familiar with them. Plus there's different recipes. There's 3-part recipes, 4-part recipes, and with these mods there's going to be 5 to 8-part recipes, so it's going to be pretty resource intensive. I'm going to have to make a lot of different parts to make it work. And so with the upgrades, you just put them in the terminal and it unlocks the next part. So it's just going to need some more iron plates and iron rods. I can crank those out and then get the next part unlocked.
Congratulations. You have unlocked Building Workshop.
And yeah, like that little tooltip at the bottom says, the portable miners, they don't need any power, so you just set them up and they run.
Sixth objective: complete hub upgrade 2. Note: portable miners require no power and will mine a node until their inventory is full. Note: multiple
So that'll be enough iron ore. Then gotta make the parts and send them on over. As you can see in the inventory, we have iron rods, iron ingots, barrel nuts, which is again food. We have wood, we have leaves, we have baked agaric, which is another type of food. We have flower petals, iron plates, and they'll all be used to make different parts and stuff later on. Alright, so setting up the iron rods and iron plates. Hub upgrade 2. Next up is hub upgrade 3, and this is going to need wire, which is copper. So pull out the scanner and scan for copper, and see what we dig up.
Congratulations. You have unlocked hub feature, biomass burner. Scanner feature, copper. New buildings and recipes, which can be found in
And so now we've unlocked the biomass burner, which it allows you to take all this biomass we've made from all the trees and leaves and stuff and basically use it for power. And that way we can get mining machines running. They require power. Get some factories running, get some smelters, maybe some assemblers or constructors. Basically, we're just going to be cranking out parts for the next part of the game just to get all these hub upgrades out of the way, and we can move on to the big stuff. But yeah, copper is very important because it's used in so many things. It's used in wire, it's used in cable, it's used in circuit boards, and you can manufacture all those things with the factories. So we're heading back to base, and we're going to get these parts in, unlock the next hub upgrade. So yeah, we need 20 plates, 20 rods, and 20 wire. So I'm just going to get some more iron here so that we can get enough resources to make the parts. But yeah, digging by hand, it can be a little time consuming. It takes a while to make stuff, but portable miners make it faster, and then the actual mining buildings make it so much faster. So I'm just going to pop these in the craft bench, wait for them to craft, and then we can move on to the next part. And it does take a while to get all these parts crafted, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and now we're looking for limestone. So go collect some more trees. Again, biomass is a huge resource that's required for energy production until you get into coal fuel, and then after that you can get into regular fuel or biofuel, and then you can work your way up to nuclear power. I don't know if these mods have any additional power buildings. I think I saw one that was called the briquette burner, which is basically a slightly faster biomass burner that you can conveyor belt things into so that you'd be able to automate your energy production, because the biomass burners you have to feed by hand, so you just keep shoving biomass in until you have enough energy produced. Unfortunately, they don't have anything like a battery building that stores power, so all power is made on demand. You make what you produce. You produce a set amount, and then there's a power draw, so you have to keep producing power until you have your energy needs met. And I've had situations previously where I've run out of power, and then everything shuts down, and you can't do anything until the fuse is reset. But in order to reset the fuse, you have to make sure the power load isn't too high. So it's a delicate balance of energy production and energy consumption. If your consumption goes over your production, of course, all your buildings shut down. You can't just run on limited power. You have to produce enough. But with all the wood that we've collected, we should have enough. So I'm just going to keep tapping out this limestone here.
Congratulations. You have
And
unlocked building, conveyor belts and poles. Inventory.
just
additional
keep producing stuff.
Ninth objective. Complete hub upgrade 5.
And so we just need more wire to make more cable and more concrete, and we need more limestone for that, and of course there's iron rods. So just go keep cranking out these parts until we have everything we need. But with Satisfactory, you've got a huge array of different resources. You've got mineral resources, you've got organic resources, you've got petrochemical resources, and of course you've got equipment, and you've got things like circuit boards and computers and motors and rotors, and you just keep building things up until you have enough of everything, and then you make your deposit and work on the next thing. So it's pretty fun. Satisfactory, I've enjoyed my time with it. It's not like other games I've played. I used to play Dwarf Fortress, which is basically about keeping a whole fortress of dwarves satisfied with what you do, and you send them on tasks, you make little facilities for them to produce goods, and then you trade them. So I'm used to the whole organizing the base type thing. I've also played RimWorld, which is similar to Dwarf Fortress, but it's more focused on combat instead of resource production. So for each game, it's different. I haven't played Factorio. I've heard it's a really good game, but it just seemed like something that Satisfactory does better, because it's more of a 3D experience instead of a 2D experience. But I've heard they're very similar games, so I might try it out in the future, but for now, Satisfactory, it scratches that itch that I have for building bases and watching things get made and just organizing a factory. So I enjoy it. It's not for everyone. There's some people who they wouldn't be patient with it. They just want results now and they wouldn't be happy with that. And there's some people who their factories end up a huge tangled mess, and some like it that way. Some prefer more organization. But there's all kinds of different ways to move resources around. It's not just conveyor belts. You've also got trucks, you've got trains, and you also have in one of the mods that I've installed for this playthrough, there's a thing called the item teleporter, which I'm going to use very heavily to make sure I can get all my resources to the proper places. Because I used to, when I had to do coal runs in my last playthrough, I had to fuel up the trucks and then drive them all the way there and back. And I'd just like to save some time and not have to make those long supply routes so I can get resources in quicker and get everything put together faster. Because it's all, first you work on speed, trying to make things faster, and then you work on efficiency, and you make sure everything's properly fed and set up. And then after that, people usually work on making their factories more beautiful. And I tried doing that, but all my assembly lines ended up looking like long streams of constructors and stuff. So I'm not really an aesthetics person. I'm definitely not an artist, and you don't have to be an artist to play this game, but some people make absolutely beautiful factories, and some people make a huge tangled mess. So it's all about your play style, your individual way of playing, and to each their own. So yeah, once I've got all this wire fixed up, I'll turn the cable, and then we can get this hub upgrade done and move on to the next part. But yeah, with this mod playthrough, I've installed a few mods. I'll put in the description on this video or the next one what those mods are. So it's going to have a lot of new buildings, a lot of new parts, and there's going to be a couple complicated recipes that require tons of different materials in order to produce. So it's really going to test my mettle and see how much of the stuff I can produce at once. But the main goal of the 100 plus milestones mod, which is the main mod I'm featuring, is going to be meeting each milestone, producing the parts, moving on to the next milestone, and then we get to unlock new buildings, new parts, things like that. But I've heard some of these milestones can be really, really hard to do. It can take days even to get all the stuff assembled for it. So this could take a while, this could take weeks, months, maybe even a year. We'll see. I haven't done the milestones mod before, so it's a completely new experience, and you guys get to share it with me. So yeah, all we need is a couple more iron rods and we should be good. Oh yeah, we have enough concrete, so just need to get these rods cranked out. And once you finish completing the hub, you get 2 free biomass burners, and you get a little shuttle that flies off into space and delivers your hub upgrades and milestones. So next is hub upgrade 6, and that's going to need 100 iron rods, 100 iron plates, 100 wire, and 50 concrete. So it's going to take quite a bit more crafting. So now we're getting the portable miner set up, and like I said before, it's a lot faster to have portable miners running than to mine the ore by hand, and then it's faster to get a mining building like the Miner Mark 1 going so that you can get even faster than the portable miners. And with the mining buildings, you can actually get 120 or 60 resources per minute. And I think the Miner Mark 3 gives you 480 resources per minute. So what I'm doing here with the portable miners is just going around to each one and collecting the iron ore. And those will be able to make the iron ore, to generate iron ore pretty quickly. So this is the first building that actually does production. This is the smelter, and it takes iron ore, it smelts into iron ingots, and then you can pick those up and have them made into something else. So these are the 2 free biomass burners that come with the hub. I'm just going to dump a bunch of leaves in for now because I haven't unlocked the recipe for biomass. And leaves burn pretty quickly, then wood lasts a little bit longer, and then biomass lasts longer than wood, and solid biofuel lasts longer than biomass. So it's a tiered system. And we also have storage containers, which allows us to take what's coming out of the machine and automatically store it. So right now I put some ore in, it's making the iron ingots, and we might as well get another smelter going, either for more iron or for copper. And so all of these portable miners have shut down because their inventories are full of 1 stack of iron ore. And for most items, stacks are 100. For some, it's 50. That's usually more advanced parts. And for some, it's 200. And with the modded parts, I think they stack up to 500. So yeah, with 500 items per stack, you can fit a lot of storage container. Each one has 24 slots. Alright, didn't need that extra smelter, but let's see. I'll go ahead and take out some more of these iron ingots. And when you have multiple crafting facilities running, multiple smelters, multiple constructors, then it makes parts faster than if you crafted them by hand. There is a significant difference between crafting each item at the craft bench versus having 10 production facilities making that item for you. And then once you get into the mega factories, people have factories making hundreds and thousands of parts per minute. I think the most I've seen at once was 5 million different items per minute. And that's just completely mind-blowing when you think about it. One day of running that kind of factory would make about 1 billion parts. It's incredible. So yeah, I have these 2 smelters going, and everything's going just fine with things being crafted. And as long as I keep those biomass burners fed, they'll keep producing power. If they run out of power, everything shuts down. Alright, so it's time to get some storage containers going so that the parts can automatically go into the factories. And you can do the same with the output. And yeah, these trees can really get in the way sometimes. And so with these storage containers, hopefully we can get the output and input automated so we can get more parts in, because each of these manufacturers, each of these smelters, they only have a small inventory of one stack. So putting storage containers there and hooking them up with conveyor belts, which require iron plates, would allow me to get things sent in and get things sent out. So there'd be more of a buffer to allow things to move from one part to the other. So load up this storage container with iron ore, and it'll produce iron ingots into that storage container. So yeah, I'm having to go on another copper run. Probably going to set up either a mining building once I get power going, or I'll set up some portable miners there. But for now, I can just pick up some copper ore by hand and work with that. Went a little too far. Sometimes you can overshoot things. They have these machines called pipes. No, not pipes. Yeah, there's some sort of pipe, and they allow you to actually move from one area to another through a tube. And some people have actually made tube cannons to send themselves off at a really fast rate, or even launch themselves halfway across the map. So yeah, we're going to need a couple of these iron rods, a couple more ingots. For the milestone, we need 100 iron rods. So it'll just take a few more minutes of those iron ingots being smelted, and we'll be able to get enough iron rods and iron plates for the milestone. So yeah, we could use some more of these portable miners, because not only are they used to mine up the ore without you having to dig it by hand, but they're also used in the miner buildings themselves. So I think the Mark 1 miner needs one portable miner in its recipe, the Mark 2 needs two portable miners, and the Mark 3 needs three portable miners. I think the mod adds, the 100 plus milestones mod adds in some additional mine buildings. I think there's one that can actually produce 960 ore per minute, and that's really mind-blowing. I think you can even overclock it to have more produced. So yeah, just keep topping off the storage container with iron ore. And we'll get some portable miners over to the copper area so we can get some extra copper ore from there, because we need to make some more wire for the milestone. And wire is also used in smelters. If we need additional ones of those, then we'll have enough wire to produce those. So just dropping down some more portable miners, go get them up and running so we can get this copper ore sent over, and I'll either run it by hand or put it in a smelter. Okay, so that has all the portable miners set up, and we'll be able to just let them do their thing and produce copper. Alright, so now we've got the next hub upgrade unlocked, and I'm going to
Congratulations.
take a
Level
look and
unlocked.
see
Building. Space
the next
elevator.
step.
Building.
So the next
Biomass
step
plant.
is a
Part.
huge
Biomass.
milestone. Now we have to
Motivational
build the
message.
space elevator
Congratulations. You
because tier
succeeded in
1
every
is locked
provided
until we
task.
have that
The
building
Alpha
set
keeps
up.
it incorporated. We thank
And
you
the
for your
space
current and
elevator, it
future
takes
service.
a huge number of resources. It takes
Additional
500
knowledge. The
concrete,
hub terminal has
250
been
iron
converted to
plates,
give
400
access to
iron rods,
milestones there to ensure you
and
progressively
1500
exceed
wire. So
protocols.
it takes quite a bit of resources in order
Note:
to build the
future
space
developments should
elevator.
be aimed at
It's a
constructing
massive
the space
building. It even
elevator, and
has
as
this
such
little thing
initiating project
that
assembly.
once it's set
Good
up,
luck.
it goes through this process of anchoring to the ground and setting things up. And then that unlocks future tiers because you have to feed it resources that are made specifically for the what they call project assembly, which is supposed to build a space station up at the top, but they haven't implemented that into the game yet. They're hoping to later. And the project assembly parts, they require things like versatile frames, automated wiring, adaptive control units, things like that. And those are multi-part pieces that are generated in the factories. You're not allowed to make them by hand, so everything has to be put in the factory and processed. And that can take quite a while getting those project assembly parts built, so it can take anywhere from a few minutes to sometimes even a day or two in order to get all those parts assembled and sent up. But I'm going to take it one milestone at a time and see where things end up. I don't want to rush things. Although, if you need more parts faster, you can always make more facilities. Alright, so now we're building the space elevator, and it is this massive structure that you send parts into. Right now it needs 50 smart plating, which we'll get to eventually. But first we have to unlock the manufacturing machines in order to make that smart plating. It needs an assembler. And here's a couple of the mod milestones. That's passive mode. It makes it so no dangerous monsters spawn in the world, and I just unlocked a 50 inventory slot milestone. So that's definitely gonna help because you need a lot of inventory in this mod to handle all of the new parts and stuff. So this is tier 1, and this is the first milestone, base building. It needs 200 concrete, 100 iron plates, and 100 iron rods. So I'm just going to dump some of this iron ore into the storage container here so it can be made into the iron ingots. I'll pick those up, process them into what's needed. Go pick up some of this copper too, because copper may be needed for a future milestone. And of course, this machine's making concrete, so I'm just gonna let it keep running. Although I could pick up some of this limestone to make my own concrete. That way there's two methods of production going at once, and that'll make things faster. So yeah, with each milestone you unlock both in the vanilla game and in the mods. You unlock different parts, you unlock different buildings, you can unlock different methods of producing materials. And I put in one mod that allows me to unlock all of the alternate recipes for stuff, because hunting down hard drives, you have to go all the way around the map to find different crash sites, and then you have to fulfill what's required of them, like a certain part, like 4 heat sinks to open a pod door, or you may need electricity to open the pod door. And once you open it up, then you can retrieve the hard drive and then salvage it for alternate recipes. But that's a very lengthy and difficult process. I figured it would just be easier if I went ahead and unlocked them all. You can get some things are required, like turbo fuel. That's required of some milestones, and in order to get turbo fuel, you need the alternate recipe, which is compacted coal and either fuel or heavy oil residue. So I went ahead and unlocked those, or at least installed the mod to unlock them, so I don't have to go hard drive hunting. Because if you don't get the recipe you want with the hard drive that you get, then you have to end up going everywhere to find those hard drives, and I just really don't have the time for that. But yeah, we've got these iron plates going. We need some more iron rods, and I think we've got a little more concrete to make, and then we'll have everything we need to set this milestone. Alright, so base building milestone is unlocked, and that's the first milestone of tier 1. The next one is logistics, and that gives you a conveyor splitter, conveyor merger, conveyor lift, and a productivity display, which I've never actually used. And with the conveyor splitter and merger, that allows you to take multiple conveyor belts and either split them off or merge them together. Like if you have 3 machines and 1 input, then you can split it off into 3 inputs, put them into the machine, get the 3 outputs, merge them into 1 output, and then feed that into another machine. So those logistics are necessary for any larger factory. With smaller ones that are just handling 1 assembly line at a time, you can do without those, but if you really want to get parts moving, then you need to get as many as you can going. Alright, so now we've got logistics launched, and that'll unlock all of those conveyor upgrades. So we're doing pretty well on tier 1 so far. Next is field research, and that'll allow us to unlock the multi-analyzer module, I believe it's called, and or multi-analyze or molecular analysis machine, something like that. And that'll allow us to unlock research like quartz, sulfur, Caterium, things like that. And those are extra resources that allow us to make things like black powder, detonators. And so we're just going to go ahead and unlock field research because we have all the parts. That gives us a little more inventory. And next up is, well, that's the Infinity milestone, and that's way in the future. But they have this little wind turbine research, and I'm probably not going to use wind power because it can be a little iffy. You have to get a better elevation or get more wind power, and I don't want to build huge fortresses in the sky just to farm wind. I figure by then I'll have fuel generators running and I'll use those to power my base. But I might as well just unlock it just to kick it off the list and move on to the next milestones. But yeah, that's the MAM, Molecular Analysis Machine. Some people call it the MAM. And those researches that it provides are very helpful, especially the noblest detonators, which are these big red explosive devices. They allow you to open up some areas that you couldn't before with different. It allows you to break open boulders and stuff and reach resources you couldn't previously. So it's a very handy tool, and a lot of people use them. And so I'm just going to attach these conveyor belts over to that manufacturer so we can get this smart plane going. And making the smart plane requires a lot of screws because you not only have to make the reinforced plates, but you also have to make the rotors. And rotors take a lot of screws, and reinforced plane takes a lot of screws. So I did one design before where I had two manufacturers for screws, but I'm just going to keep one because once we're done with this milestone, we're probably not going to need smart plating for a few more milestones. But yeah, these machines are going to make the smart plating so we can ship it off for the Efforts of War 4, Artificial Intelligence. And for this milestone, it looks like we also need coal, which we can get pretty easily. But we also need alien carapaces and alien organs, which means I'm probably going to have to turn off the passive mode mod in order to do some hunting to collect those resources. Because there isn't usually any way to manufacture them yourselves, you actually have to go kill the creatures to get them. So we've got our iron production going well, and thankfully smart plating only requires iron. But we do have some alien carapaces. Well, we have one alien carapace already, so we'll be able to use that towards the milestone. Oh, I forgot about this. There's actually a way to manufacture them. I think one of the mods allows you to. So all you have to do is take the biomass and turn it into alien carapaces just like this, and boom. Okay, so I won't have to do a hunting. That's good because I really hate the combat in this game. I mean, it's well designed, you can fight pretty well, but it's just a pain in the neck to go find the creatures because they're always so spread out. But yeah, I'm just going to do a little trimming here because we're going to need more biomass in order to make the rest of the alien organs and carapaces. So yeah, I'm just going to do a little bit of biomass harvesting. I love the water in this game. It's really nice looking. It's not very realistic, but it does have a lovely pattern on the top. So now we're moving on to completing the basic steel production milestone. And I went ahead and changed the milestones because we do need steel production in order to get the coal resources. Well, we are unlocked coal power, but it's still better to get steel production unlocked.
Progress to the next phase is now possible.
And yeah, I went ahead and did the other milestone. I just finished it up. So now we're on Efforts of War 5, Men in Black. And that's going to need copper sheet, which is pretty easy. It's going to need flower petals, which we already have. And it's going to need coal, which we already submitted. All we need is more copper sheets and these, I'm not sure what they're called. They're some kind of versatile framework. But, oh yeah, complex steel versatile frameworks. And so we're going to have to fix up some foundries in order to make those complex steel ingots. Because they're a little complicated, that's why they're called complex. But it requires iron and coal to make the steel, and then it requires copper and caterium in order to make the gold and copper ingots. And then those gold and copper ingots, which we have being manufactured over there, are put into the foundry and add with the steel ingots to make complex steel ingots. And so then we can use those to make the complex steel parts in order to make the complex steel versatile frameworks. But yeah, storage for the input, storage for the output. Gonna need to make another power pole because we need to get power over here. But yeah, the thing about power poles is you constantly have to make them because you're going to be wiring up thousands of machines over time. And you have to make sure you're providing enough power, because if you don't, everything shuts down. But we're making plenty of power with all these biomass burners. So I'm just going to go ahead and conveyor belt these two to the foundry, get this done to the output, and tell it to make steel ingots. Or yeah, we'll have this one make steel ingots. We'll make some more foundries to make the complex steel. So all it needs is coal and iron, and we know where we can get iron. I'll just take a little bit from these machines. It'll just fill up from the storage containers. And top it off from the storage container, and then we can just drop it all in there. So now that's running, and that's making steel ingots. Yeah, of course the miners are producing more iron, so we can get more iron ingots produced for this side of the factory. And this machine here is making the gold and copper ingots, which will feed into another smelter, another foundry, and we'll get production of those going. And our copper production is just going fantastic, so I'm just going to empty this out, bring it over so we can get more gold and copper going. And I may need to visit my Caterium mine later to pick up more. Well, I'll go ahead and go now. And so we've got a basic setup for the production of Caterium ingots over here. We've got a miner, mine out, we've got smelters. I'm going to skip ahead, and this is the recipe for the complex steel versatile framework. And it needs complex steel screws, complex steel reinforced bars, complex steel reinforced plate, and complex steel joint. So yeah, these recipes for the mods, they're very complicated, and I think the most parts you can put into a recipe with the mod is 10 parts. So yeah, it's going to need this, that. Of course, you have to produce the resources, which require you to produce the resources for them, and it's really just complicated. But thankfully, Satisfactory has this little feature called Add to To-Do List that allows you to put into the little sidebar on the right the materials you need to produce something. So yeah, this is going to take a lot of resources, but I think we'll be able to produce this relatively quickly. It will just take time for the complex steel ingots to be produced. But yeah, all of these recipes require complex steel ingots, and for the reinforced plates, you have to make regular plates and then band those together. So yeah, I went ahead and skipped ahead, and it took a very long time producing those parts, so I figured I'd save you the wait. So we've got that produced, and the next one is Effort to War 6 Barbarella. And this will introduce the Forester, which is an amazing machine that allows you to actually produce more biomass than you put in. So it's basically an automated biomass generator. You just feed it biomass and take the wood and leaves you produce from it and grind it up into more biomass and feed it back into it, and then you end up with a surplus of biomass. So some people produce biomass generators based off of the design of the Forester, and that allows them to produce enough electricity to run their machines. But there's a huge variety of different energy sources. For the biomass burner, which is what we're running off now, as you can see over there, it takes up either leaves, biomass, wood, anything relatively flammable. It can even burn packaged biofuel, which is pretty handy if you have an excess of biofuel. And with production of fuel, again, you have many different sources. You can use petroleum, which is oil products. You can use just all kinds of stuff. So I went ahead and skipped ahead and finished that milestone because, again, resource acquisition takes a long time. So now we got 7 Efforts of War 7, Moon. And that is a kinda assembler. It takes wood and turns into planks and sawdust. And the sawdust is helpful because you can use it to grow mycelia, which saves you the effort of having to harvest all you need by hand. And I know some of the milestones in this mod have very high fabric requirements, so we're going to need to make another forester in order to produce all the mycelia we're going to need. Because that's the two recipes available for a forester. Either you make wood and leaves, or you make mycelia. But mycelia is relatively expensive to produce because for the mycelia you have to pump in liquid biofuel, 4 cubic meters of it, and then with the liquid biofuel, once it's pumped into there, then you also need the sawdust. And the sawdust is relatively easy to make because you just take the wood from the forester and dump it into the forester for the mycelia. So this is our coal setup, but I'm going to go ahead and pull these water, or move the water generator here so we can add a third one, because we didn't have enough room before. So I figure with extra water producer we can get another generator going so we can suit our electricity needs. And you don't always need a pipeline pump, but I find it helps move the liquids through the pipes faster, so I just have one on to make sure everything's flowing properly. Because if it doesn't have enough push to flow uphill, then it just all stays in the pipe and goes nowhere. And that is definitely not what we want. And like I said before, you need a ton of power poles, so every time you have 3 cables on a power pole, it's always best to just make a new power pole so you can add more machines later. We don't need that craft bench anymore, so now we can take the coal that's going from this miner and we can belt it all the way into the coal generator. And thankfully conveyor belts can go through the ground. Technically impossible, but still. And we'll have to use lower grade. Well, I'll just go grab some more reinforced plates. Might as well, because we're going to need them for other stuff. Yeah, in some machines, the conveyor belt Mark 1 is sufficient to get... The conveyor belt Mark 1 is sufficient to get resources into a manufacturer at a sufficient pace. But once you start overclocking buildings and moving up to the higher grade machines, you're going to need more resources belted in faster. I think the highest you can go with the mod is 500 resources a minute being used by a machine, and I'm not sure which machine that is. But I looked on the Discord and the wiki and I was able to find out a couple of things. And just a warning for the wiki, you have to be careful because a lot of the recipes for the milestones on there are outdated. So when they added a new patch, they replaced the recipes so you could use more of the stuff in the mod. So sometimes it will say like it needs 100 motors, but actually needs 1,000 contaminated oil. So you just have to keep that in mind when you're running this mod. But it's a very fun mod. I would highly recommend it. So we've got this coal generator going. We got that one going. So this will help us with our power needs, and might as well take some extra coal to go fuel up the storage container for the foundry, so we can get that going. Because we haven't unlocked the item teleporters yet in the mod. Once we do, that'll make logistics a breeze. Won't have to use trains or trucks. Just send things from one side of the map to the other in virtually no time at all. So that'll be really handy. And we'll just have to keep that in mind. So yeah, now we've got a couple of those foundries making steel. Let's go take some of this iron so we can fill up the cargo containers. And yeah, we've got our nice little miniature steel mill here. Just gotta keep feeding the beast, you know. There is a lot of different crafting in this mod, so you have to really keep things pumping, and if you don't have enough production for either a machine or your needs, you have to multiply how many machines you have. I'm not sure how big this factory will get, but for now, things are moving very well. We'll go ahead and fix these up to make steel beams so we can make the versatile frameworks for the Milestone. The Milestone also requires steel beams, so we'll just put those in a storage container and let those run. So yeah, production is going very smoothly at this point. For Efforts of War 7 Moon, we're going to need 500 pipes, 250 steel beams, 250 versatile frameworks, and 5,000 screws. So I'm just going to loot some of these manufacturers for the screws we need. Of course, I could also just put a bunch of splitters on the belts and follow them all into one storage container, but I figured just picking them up that way would be easier, because it would take a lot more logistics to get everything set up for that kind of setup. So yep, we've got a lot of screws, and that's almost enough to fill it up, but we're going to need about 800 more. So we're going to swap recipes on here. We're going to go from the gold and copper ingots, since we don't need any more complex steel. We're going to move over to versatile frameworks. So those are going to need steel beams and modular frames. The steel beams are easy enough to produce. I've already got a couple of machines producing those, but for the modular frameworks, I'm either going to have to set something up to make those, or I'm going to have to pipe them in somehow. It's always easier to manufacture things with a machine, but sometimes it's just quicker to do it by hand, especially if you don't have a lot of factories running at once. But yeah, we're going to have plenty of steel for these steel beams and steel pipes. But these are the modular frames, and they require reinforced plate and iron rods. And so iron rods are easy enough to get, we can just lower screw production. But yeah, we finished that milestone, and I also unlocked a milestone 10, Shadows of the Past. That one was pretty easy, so I went ahead and skipped it. But now we're on to Efforts of War 11, Journey to Babel. And that's a pretty cool name. But this one's going to need 250 motors, 100 heavy modular frames, 250 of those made wirings, and 3,000 reinforced plates. So we're going to have to kick our reinforced plate production to overdrive to meet this milestone. But yeah, this is easy enough. You just plug in some stators and some rotors, and out come motors. So we'll have that machine producing motors for us. As for this machine, we can repurpose it for making something else. And this is one of our alternate recipes, which I unlocked through the Unlock All Alternate Recipes mod, which, like it says on the tin, allows you to unlock all the alternate recipes instead of searching for hard drives like I mentioned earlier. That is an absolute pain. And this is one of the alternate recipes. It's called Copper Rotor, and instead of using iron rods and screws, it uses copper sheeting and screws. And instead of producing one at a time, it makes them in batches of 3. So it's faster, more efficient, and if you have enough copper, it's a better use of resources because you can save iron for other things. And there are all kinds of alternate recipes. They allow you to make almost everything in the game in a different fashion. So we're just filling up our machines. Let's go and make the encased industrial beams we're going to need for the heavy modular frames. They need 5 modular frames, 5 encased beams, I think 15 steel pipes, and 100 screws. So it's a relatively complicated recipe, but we got all of those cranked out in record time, so went ahead and unlock that milestone. We're doing pretty well unlocking these milestones relatively quickly, but we're going to need to slow down later in order to produce all the parts needed for the next milestones. So this is going to unlock a couple of things. It's Efforts War 12, Spartacus, and it requires rebar guns, spiked rebar, which is the ammo. It's going to need mycelia, which we can either farm by hand or fix up in the Forester, and color cartridges, which are flower petals mashed up into an ink. So all of our iron production is going well. We just need to loot some flower petals, and we're going to need some iron rods for the spiked rebar. But first, we need to unlock mycelia research. And so we've got that out of the way. With all of these researches, once you unlock them, you unlock new parts and new ways of making stuff. So for that, we're going to need more biomass. But for now, we need to unlock the color gun, which requires 100 iron plates, which we can loot from our plate producers. And then just hop over to the machine and unlock it. So a color gun actually allows you to change the color of your buildings, and that's pretty fun because you get to have a personal touch to things. Personally, my favorite color is purple, so I might turn everything purple later, but for now, I'm just going to keep everything the default color because aesthetics aren't really my thing. But once we get the color gun unlocked, we're going to unlock the next research, which is the color cartridge, which will allow us to produce the color cartridges to fill up that milestone. And this is my energy production facility I made with 2 foresters and a bunch of briquette burners. And it takes biomass, manufactures it from the foresters, and then it gets produced into solid biofuel, which gets burned by the briquette burners. So it just keeps producing its thing, and it is working fantastic to meet my energy needs. So I don't have to have all my energy sprawled out. I can just have it centralized in that main location. And it's really helpful to have things centralized, because if you don't, you can really get lost in your own factory, and if you need extra power, but all your power grid is spread out everywhere and something goes out, you have to run all over the place to figure out what's going on. So the iron just keeps pumping. Again, we're going to need iron rods for the spiked rebar, but it looks like that storage container over there is full. So we're going to be able to make all the spiked rebar we need. And yeah, sorry about the lag there. But we've got enough screws going to make those plates. And I think we might need iron plates for the rebar gun. I'm not quite sure. But the color gun still needs 3 more minutes. So I'm just going to skip ahead and see what's to do next. But that's what the additional research is. That unlocks diesel using contaminated oil, and that allows you to manufacture all these Paragon diesels, which are brightly colored different fuels. I think they've got a whole rainbow of colors. And it basically allows you to, um, well, it allows you to make different parts with all the fuels. And with the rebar gun here, it needed the advanced plates. I figured so. And iron rods and screws. So we're just going to make 10 of those so we can get that part finished up. And then we're going to make the spiked rebar, which is the ammunition for the gun. And then we'll pick up the mycelia and the color cartridges and get those all submitted. But yeah, about those alternate recipes, I'm so happy that they have those because sometimes you're at an absolute shortage of a specific resource, and it's better to have an alternate way to produce the good you need to. So yeah, just crank out some more spiked rebar and we can get this finished. Alright, so we got all the resources put together and we have it submitted. Sparkus is done. Next, we'll see what's next. Efforts of War 13, Trojan Horse. So for this, we're going to have to unlock the improved melee combat milestone so we can get those Xenobashers produced, because you can't submit what you can't produce. So that milestone, we'll be able to get the Xenobashers. So I'm just going to complete that milestone real quick. But yeah, production is going very, very well at my factory. It's just so many machines and stuff, it's a little difficult to keep everything organized. But yep, I've still got that big space elevator in the distance. I don't think we're going to need it anymore because I think I've unlocked the tiers. It may need one more. We'll see later.
Milestone reached.
Alright, so now that we've got that milestone unlocked, next is Efforts of War 13, Trojan Horse.
With increased strength and range.
And so for Trojan Horse, we're going to need chainsaws, Xenobashers, object scanners, and portable miners. And object scanners require beacons, so we'll be able to crank those out pretty easily. I mean, we've already got some stuff up there that we can make pretty quickly. But thank you so much for joining me on my first episode of my playthrough. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.